buenas tardes a todos. Les damos la bienvenida a esta sesión número 8 de nuestro seminario de ciencia de datos de la UAM Iztapalapa. Como les decía, en esta ocasión es una sesión especial, por eso la hora en la que iniciamos, las 7 de la tarde. Hoy tenemos con nosotros al doctor Hiroshi Kori de Japón, quien va a hablar sobre, pues, hablamos de sistemas dinámicos en biología, química. Le voy a pedir al profesor Héctor Morales que nos dé una introducción, nos presente al doctor Hiroshi. Sí, por favor, Héctor.
Bueno, pues muchas gracias. Voy a pasar al inglés y eventualmente todo podrá ser en español para los estudiantes si quieren preguntar. Desde luego los colegas siéntanse libres de preguntar en inglés y en japonés para los que quieran practicar su japonés. Okay, I'm going to introduce Professor Hiroshi Kori. Professor Hiroshi Kori is affiliated with the Department of Complexity Science and Engineering at the University of Tokyo. He obtained his PhD in science physics from the Kyoto University in 2003. Today, Dr. Kori has 48 research articles in highly prestigious peer-reviewed journals. Sorry, peer-reviewed journals. Sorry, I lost the text. Such as Nature, Chaos, Proceedings of National Academy of Science in the US, Physica D, and Physical Review E. He's an expert in various topics, topics such as synchronization, complex networks, biological rhythms, pattern formation, and nonlinear and out of equilibrium systems. Dr. Kori is a member of the Japanese Society for Mathematical Biology and the Physical Society of Japan. The former granted him in 2009 the Young Scientist Award. Outside his country, Dr. Kori has been a guest lecturer at academic institutions in Switzerland, the United States, South Korea, Germany, Spain, the United Kingdom, Ukraine, France, the Netherlands, and China. So it's for me a great pleasure to introduce an old good friend in Japan, Dr. Kori. Please, it's yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. So the title of the talk will be like this. I'm Hiroshi Kori. And as already Hector kindly introduced me, I got PhD under the supervision of Yoshiki Kuramoto. And also, yeah, this is very important event. I met Hector in Arizona in 2001, already 20 years ago. Here I found a photo and you can see this guy and this guy. This is me. All right. And after that, I was in Berlin and then Hokkaido, Sapporo, and another university. And now I'm in University of Tokyo. And as Hector just suggested me to introduce the University of Tokyo. So let me show you some website, one moment, of our graduate school. I hope it is this one. Yes. Okay, so this is our graduate school in the University of Tokyo. The Graduate School of Frontier Sciences. It's a big graduate school. There are many departments in this graduate school. And you can see you can find English side, and there you can see the pamphlet. For example, pamphlet digital book. So this is our campus. It's a quite large campus. We have a lot of spaces and only a few people. No, only a few people. That is too exaggerated, but maybe not so many people in this campus. And yeah, you can take a look. And our campus is not inside the center of Tokyo. It's about 30 kilometers from the center of Tokyo. It takes about 1 hour from the main campus of University of Tokyo. We have in the University of Tokyo, there are three main campuses. One is real main campus, Hongo. The other is Komaba and this Kashiwa campus. Kashiwa campus is our campus. Okay, actually my birthplace is just 10 kilometers from here. So it was a big surprise for me to get a chance to work here. I finally, after a long trip, Hokkaido, Berlin, I got back to the kind of birthplace, hometown. Okay, and what else? Our department. So this is our department, the Department of Complexity Science and Engineering. This is a department the department for any kind of complex, not any kind of, several types of complexity science. And for example, there are many professors and associated professors working on kind of mathematical problems, also the machine learning, and also the neural networks, and also astrobiology and plasma physics, and so on. And this is our group. So this is me working on nonlinear physics, complex system, dynamical system, and this is associate professor in our group, Kobayashi. He's working on data science, computational neuroscience, and web science, and he's a lecturer in our group, Izumida, working on nonlinear physics, non-equilibrium physics. If you are interested in, please find these websites, and whenever you have questions, just give me email, and I can anytime answer to you any kind of questions. Okay, let me go back to my slides. Where is it? Okay. Okay, so I'm not a mathematician, actually kind of mathematical physicist working on synchronization problems. And let me first show you a movie.
Something unexpected happened. People changed the way they walked in reaction to the movement of the bridge. To balance themselves, pedestrians spread their feet apart, creating a significant lateral, not vertical force. More importantly, the people's reaction was almost identical. Everyone stepped the same way at the same time, creating a synchronized rather than random force. The frequency of this force matched the natural frequency of the bridge.
Okay, so this is a kind of accident occurred in 2000 in London. As you can see, the pedestrian interact via movement of suspension bridge and synchronize their walking. And you can see this caused a dangerous situation, a strong lateral movement of this bridge. Okay, and this very similar phenomena can be reproduced easily using metronomes. This is experiments by me. So I put 4 metronomes on a suspension bridge, and you can see they are communicating with each other via vibration of this bridge. And you can see 2 clusters now: small amplitude in phase synchrony, large amplitude in phase synchrony. But this is a kind of unstable state, and they eventually find another state. This is synchronization, in-phase synchronization of these 4 oscillators. And this state is stable, so this state persists for a long time. Okay, this kind of phenomena is called the synchronization. Okay, you can also enjoy the synchronization of cats. Okay, so this is a biological example. Okay. Okay, so there are many questions on coupled oscillators synchronization problems. So one is how to model under what condition do oscillators synchronize. And also there are many kind of complex phenomena. And also people are interested in also noise effect and coupling network effect. And what is the functions of this synchronization, such as biological or energetic aspects. And also how to control, and applications. And what I want to talk to you today is these blue lines. First, I briefly introduce Kramotos theory, and then I will introduce basically three issues. One is common noise, the noise effect, and the other is a kind of control problem. And the last one is about our biological clock, jet lag problem. Okay, the first issue, the introduction of phase oscillator model. This is basically the introduction of the theory by Yoshiki Kuramoto. Okay, so first, what is limit cycle oscillator? Limit cycle oscillator, a good example is metronome. You can see if I start from small amplitude, the amplitude of oscillation increases, and you can see this eventually arrive at a kind of fixed amplitude oscillation. And if I start from a large amplitude, similarly, the amplitude decreases and the metronome arrive at the same periodic dynamics. Okay, so in the phase space, this means that you have a closed periodic orbit, and this is asymptotically stable. As time goes on, the phase point will be absorbed into this periodic orbit. So this kind of stable, not necessarily stable, but I only mention only a stable case. The stable periodic orbit is called limit cycle oscillator. And if you have limit cycle oscillator, you can also consider phase oscillator model. This is like this. So a single oscillator, for example, genetic oscillator, is often very complicated. Even metronome is not that simple. But if it is perturbed only weakly, we can describe it by a single variable model. That is called phase oscillator model. So this is the state phase. This is the phase space for the single oscillator. And for example, you have X variable and Y variable. In the case of metronome, this is, for example, the angle, and this is the angular velocity. And you have a cycle here. And because this periodic orbit is kind of one-dimensional orbit, you can parameterize the oscillation using only a single variable. This is called phase, phi. And a very simple model is only this part, d phi dt equal omega. So this means that the velocity of phi is constant omega. You can choose variable in such a way that the phase evolve with a constant velocity in the absence of perturbation. So we have very simple model. This is kind of clock. Okay, now suppose that this system is weakly perturbed. For example, I can artificially vibrate the bridge of suspension bridge by hand weakly. Then this can be treated as a perturbation. And perturbation strength is kappa. And the effect of this perturbation can be described in this way. Pretty simple. So this is the lowest order description, valid when kappa is very small. Okay. So you have a kind of the change of velocity by the effect of perturbation, but this perturbation is not directly comes here, but the product between Z and P. And Z is called phase sensitivity function, or some people call it phase response curve also. What this mean? So this oscillator changes its phase velocity when it is perturbed, but it depends on the timing. For example, if the phase oscillator is in this area, then the velocity will increase, and the other part, the velocity would decrease. And you have this kind of curve called phase sensitivity function. And the phase velocity is actually takes this form, omega plus kappa z p. This is a theory by Winfrey and also Kuramoto. And one can easily derive this dynamical equation as I show you in the next slide. For example, this is limit cycle oscillator, and this is a phase variable, and this is just variable change. And then you can describe in terms of phase, this kind of dynamical equation. And if you suppose that this kappa is the perturbation strength is small, then you can linearize the system to get this phase equation. Okay, so this is a pretty simple and natural way to describe the weakly perturbed oscillator. And this is an example, dynamics of two fireflies. For example, you have two fireflies flashing at first independently, but they interact each other via influence of light. And then you can describe individual phase dynamics in this way, and the coupling is, for example, this way. And here P describes the light intensity, and it's basically 2-pi periodic function of the phase phi1 or phi2. And Z is a phase response curve. And in this way, you can model two interacting flashing fireflies and using these very simple dynamical equations. And the important thing is these parameters and functions can be experimentally measured. For example, P you can certainly measure, and omega you can measure by isolating one flashing firefly in a cage. And also Z can be measured by artificially giving light pulse to the isolated firefly. You can measure Z. Okay, and actually Z of real fireflies is measured in 2081. You can find this paper. Okay, actually this phase equation is not very mathematically tractable, but if you assume small coupling strengths with compared to the natural frequencies, you can further simplify these phase equations into this form. This is a kind of maybe a famous form of the phase for the description and the other phase model. Maybe many people think that this is a standard form of the phase oscillators. Okay, so actually the coupling was originally a function of phi1 and phi2, but in this way, in this description, the coupling is given by the function of phase difference, phi1 minus phi2 or phi2 minus phi1. And this function can be derived as a convolution between phase sensitivity function and input function P. Okay. And this equation is pretty much simple and mathematically tractable. Okay, let me play with this model. So suppose that we have many oscillators having different natural frequency omega I, and we have coupling in this way. This coupling is pretty simple. If a phase of phi I is smaller than phase of other guy phi j, this term becomes positive. So this means that the phase velocity increases, okay? And in this way, try to catch up to the other guy's phase. And this coupling is the kind of the idealization of the interacting oscillators. So this is so-called global coupling. So everybody looks at everybody, and with the homogeneous coupling strength K. Okay, or you can say that this is a mean field type coupling. And this type of model is often called Cramold model, but it refers to the model with infinite L. So let us first consider its finite version, N20, and observe the actual frequency omega I. This is the observed frequency. So basically, this is the average of the right-hand side of this equation. Okay. And this is coupling strength, and this is actual frequency. And if K is 0, this is independent oscillator. So this is kind of the setup of this numerical estimation. I assign these natural frequencies in this way. I remember that this is originally I take these random numbers from Gaussian. Okay, so this is 20 oscillators having different frequencies. And you can see as coupling strength increases, frequency changes and make clusters, and finally only one cluster. This is a synchrony. Not totally in-phase synchrony, but the actual frequency of these oscillators becomes identical. Okay, if you look at the kind of output, you can see this kind of oscillations. For example, the kappa and the coupling strength is 0, you have almost randomly these kind of weak oscillations. And there is a kind of threshold around k equal 0.6 or 0.8, above which we have well-defined strong oscillations. Actually, this kind of random behavior is a finite size effect. Okay, so let me, so I want to introduce you how to identify this transition behavior. So we introduce complex order parameter R. This is a kind of, so this is pretty simple. So now oscillators are distributed on the unit circle, and it's center of mass. Center of mass is described by a point here, and the length from the origin to the center of mass is this R. R is sometimes small and large, but they are basically the same thing. No, sorry. R is a real part of, the amplitude of this small r, okay. So if R is 0, basically no synchrony occurs, and if R is large, the system shows near in-phase state. Okay, and this is the numerical result. The Kuramoto order parameter, this R is often called Kuramoto order parameter R as a function of coupling strength. And you can see increase of this R for N20, N equal 20. And if we consider even larger system size, we have well-defined transition behavior. And at N goes to infinity, you have really the sharp transition here at some threshold value. And in the case of Gaussian distribution of the phase, the natural frequency, we can analytically calculate the critical coupling strength, and that has this value. Here, sigma is the standard deviation of this Gaussian distribution. Okay, so this phenomena is called Coulomb transition. Okay, so this is basically the brief introduction of phase oscillator model. Phase oscillator model is a model, a simple model to describe one oscillator or coupled oscillators. And in the case of global coupling, we can identify, we can analyze the transition behavior in a clear manner. That is the theory by Kuramoto. Okay, so let me switch to my issues. The first topic 1. This is noise-induced synchronization in a large population of coupled oscillators. And this is a collaboration with Ken Nagai and published in 2010. Okay, we consider Kuramoto model. Sorry. No, sorry. So this is a introduction, brief review of noise effect on synchronization. So suppose that we have identical oscillators plus independent noise, okay? And this system shows synchronization if coupling strength is stronger than G. G is noise strength. This is basically very similar to the effect of heterogeneity in the frequency. In this system, the frequency is homogeneous, but we have dynamical noise here. But anyway, the synchronization occurs if the noise effect or heterogeneity effect is weaker than the coupling effect. Okay, so this is expressed in this way. If K is larger than G, then synchronization occurs. Also another situation is like this. So we have independent oscillators plus common noise. For example, phi dot has omega I plus phase response curves times noise. And here P noise has noise strength D. And this system shows synchronization, but only when omega I is omega 0, all identical. And this is published in 2004. So our question was like that. So how about couple identical oscillators plus common noise? Does the common noise promote? No identical oscillators, yes. Promote or inhibit synchronization. You know, we are going to consider hybrid situation of these two. We have heterogeneous Maybe next model. Yes. Yeah, we have heterogeneous natural frequency and also common noise. Please note that this noise is not independent. So the system is subject to common fluctuating signal. For example, you can consider this as a temperature fluctuation in a experiment room. Okay, so we have this model, and by taking a continuous limit, we have this kind of equation. I do not talk about the details of the theory, the derivation, but only giving you the idea. The continuous limit, we have this equation, and all the parameter is described in this way. And we employed Otto-Antonsen theory. This is a pretty big breakthrough in the field of Kuramoto model. We can solve many systems analytically using this Otto-Antonsen theory. Anyway, using Otto-Antonsen theory, we can derive the Fokker-Planck equation for the distribution of Q of A. And what is Q? Q is, what is Q? Q is where? Sorry, Q is a distribution, sorry. A is, so the square root of A is Kuramoto order parameter. And the distribution of square root of A is described by Q. And we can derive the Fokker-Planck equation for the distribution Q in this way. And we use some kind of approximation that is valid for weak coupling and weak noise. And then we can obtain the stationary distribution of this system. And using this system, we can discuss synchronization transition. So this is a numerical simulation. If noise is very weak, so we consider this situation. This K is below Kuramoto phase transition point. So in the absence of noise, this system does not synchronize. This is reflected by the uniform distribution of phase. So this is the number of oscillators as a function of phase. And this flat line means the phase is fully distributed over the unit circle. Now we increase the noise from D equals 0 to D equals 0.02. Now we have this unimodal distribution. So now the system is synchronized. In the ordered state. Okay. Anyway, we have this kind of phase diagram. So this is not a phase diagram. This is the order parameter change as a function of coupling strength. And in the absence of noise, we have standard Kuramoto phase transition here. But with noise, this phase transition occurs earlier. The earlier means for smaller coupling strengths. So the common noise promotes synchronization. So this is the conclusion of this study. Okay, so it seems that we can play and have a good understanding of synchronization with phase oscillator models. But are they really useful? With them, can we quantitatively predict and control collective dynamics of real-world oscillators? This was the question. So next issue is synchronization engineering. This is published 2007 in Science. So we consider a population of oscillators. They are maybe interacting or not interacting. And suppose that we have a target collective behavior, for example, synchrony or desynchrony, or for example, clustering. And our question is whether we can control the synchronization dynamics using this kind of global delayed feedback. So we measure the oscillations dynamics time series and change the signal into another signal and give a feedback globally to the system. So maybe in the case of London Millennium Bridge, you can consider this situation. People are walking and we give a global feedback using kind of very strong noisy sound to them. By this, they can change their walking rhythm and try to desynchronize the system and then make the bridge situation the safer. Okay, so this is our proposed methodology. So before our proposed methodology, I explained the standard way to study the experimental oscillatory system using mathematical models. So for example, if you have some kind of experimental setup, you have its detailed model, then you can reproduce the phenomena by numerical simulation. Or you can obtain the phase oscillator model from the detailed model, and you can numerically or analytically explain the phenomena. Or you can even directly obtain phase oscillator model. As I told you, omega and z and p can be often measurable directly from the experimental system. So you can directly construct phase oscillator models from experiments, and you can analyze the phenomena. Okay, so this is a kind of standard way to use phase oscillator models or mathematical models to explain the phenomena. And our way is kind of backward engineering. It's solving the reverse problem. So we set the phenomena, we set the kind of target behavior, synchrony or desynchrony. And we know a lot of using in the literature, we can find many types of coupling function f to produce this kind of target behavior. And we can deconvolute this f into z and p. And suppose that this z is already measurable in the experimental system we are using, then what we need to construct is this function p. And this is a kind of a convolution deconvolution relationship. So we can find the waveform of p given f and z. Okay, and then we can try to mimic we can try to implement this function p as a function of delayed feedback. And in this way, we can, if we give this feedback p to the experimental system, this system should show the target behavior. So this was our idea. And experimental verification is done in the University of Virginia. So they use electrochemical oscillators. And anyway, we succeed to control. From the independent oscillators, if we switch on the feedback, we can realize 1 cluster, 2 clusters, 3 clusters, 4 clusters as we predicted. And also we can desynchronize the system. If they have originally the global coupling, they show the synchronized behavior in the absence of feedback. But with our designed feedback, we can even desynchronize the system. Okay. Now, phase models works for the quantitative control of chemical system. And now we got the confidence, and why not tackling biological problems? So now next issue is the mechanism of jet lag and the method to circumvent it. So this is a collaboration with Dr. Yamaguchi and Okamura in Kyoto University and published in these two papers. Okay, so let me first review our circadian clock. So our circadian clock is orchestrated by SCN. It's a small tissue inside the brain, suprachiasmatic nucleus. It consists of about 10,000 of neurons in the case of human. And this is a genetic oscillator. So each cell has genetic oscillations with about 24 hours rhythm period. And this system shows synchronization. This is a movie showing the synchronization of this SGN. So this light intensity shows the genetic activity of individual cells. And you can see they shows very nice synchronization over 1 or 2 weeks, even on the experimental room. This is explant of the SGN. Okay, and this SGN controls the circadian clock of our entire body. And this is jet lag in mice. So I'm interested in jet lag because I'm really suffered from jet lag in any cases. When I went to Boulder in 2001, I was almost useless for 1 week. Anyway, going to the experiencing eastbound trip is for many people very hard. For your case, maybe if you goes from Mexico City to the England, I guess many people will be suffered from strong jet lag. Okay, so this kind of behavior can be also reproduced in mice. So this is a mouse in a cage and subjected to so-called light-dark cycle. So 12 hours of lightness and 12 hours of darkness in a cage. And because this guy is nocturnal, this mouse is active during night. Sorry, I didn't mention. So this blackbird shows the frequency of movement of this mouse in a cage. Okay. So during day, they are not active, and during night, they are active. But actually, they take siesta here, and then before the end of this night duration, they become again active. This is quite similar to human behavior also. Of course, in the case of human, they are active in the light phase, but they also take nap after lunchtime. Okay, and this is jet lag. So okay, so if this LD cycle is advanced by 8 hours at this point, this guy cannot wake up for 1 week or 10 days, and kind of useless for a long time. Okay, so this situation is similar to the eastbound trip from Japan to, for example, San Francisco. Very strong jet lag this mouse experiences. But interestingly, the other direction, the mouse can quickly adapt to the new schedule. This is the case of westbound trip, for example, the San Francisco to Japan. Okay. Now, this is a kind of statistical data about this jet lag behavior. Anyway, I will not talk about this knockout mice, so I only talk about this wild type mice. So please look at only black lines. And this is the onset time as a function of days. Okay, and it takes 1 or 10 days to get fully recovered to the new schedule. And here PS50 is described. PS50 is a time to achieve 50% recovery in activity onset or offset times. So this case, 50% recovery is because the time hours different. The time shift is 8 hours. The 4 hours is a 50% recovery. So this length is a PS50 from 0 to say about 6. Okay, this one. And in the case of eastbound trip, it takes 6 days. And in the case of the westbound trip, it takes only 3 days. So very strong asymmetry exists. So what is happening in our biological clock? And if we closely look at the gene expression in the SCN cells, we can see this behavior. So this is before this is clock gene expression in SCN, and this is before the jet lag, and this is after jet lag. Jet lag is given at this point. And please look at only black lines. Here you can see after the jet lag, the genetic oscillation becomes very weak for a long time. And after 1 week, it will be back. The amplitude becomes the same as the case of before jet lag. And if we look at the gene expressions in SGN, we can see that before the jet lag, we have kind of clusters of points at a certain time. So this means that synchronization occurs, very strong synchronization occurs before the jet lag. But after jet lag, 3 days after the jet lag, these black points distributed over entire day. So this means the timing of gene expression distributed fully over 24 hours. So desynchrony occurs. And after 9 days, again, the synchronization can be observed. Synchronized behavior is observed. So this desynchrony, we suspect that this desynchrony is a primal reason for heavy jet lag symptom. So there are many Q&A. So what is the asymmetric response between advancing and delaying phase shift? And our answer is because the jet lag separatrix is on the side of phase advancing jet lag. And why do clock cells desynchronize when LD cycle is advanced by 8 hours? This is because desynchronization naturally occurs for phase shift around the jet lag separatrix. And how can we avoid jet lag? We construct a mathematical model and propose a practical method. We obtain positive result in mice. Okay, so propose model. So these are answers, but I do not have enough time, so I will briefly explain. So this is our proposed model based on the anatomical structure of our the master clock SGN. So the influence of light arrives at a certain subset of the neurons inside SGN. This is called group 0. And there are another group 1 and 2, and they are interacting with each other, and output is given from this group 1 and 2. Okay, and this is the simple way to describe the dynamical behavior of these groups. So the group 0 is immediately entering into the LD cycle in this way. So this is not the dynamical equation, but given as a function of time. And the equations for group 1 is like this. So group 1 try to synchronize to group 0, and also try to synchronize with group 2, but with some phase difference alpha. and similar dynamic equation is given to the group 2. And this alpha is very important parameter. As you can see, this system is not totally in phase, but you can see have some phase dispersion, the phase differences between different regions, among different regions. And this phase difference is quite important. And we put alpha, parameter alpha here to describe the phase difference between these two groups. And the first question is jet lag separatrix. So what is jet lag separatrix? This is a critical jet lag at which your clock changes the strategy, either speeding up to come up with, to catch up with a new time zone, or slowing down to adjust to the new time zone. And this is the experiments in mice. The case of mice, jet lag plus 8 hours, they speed up to catch up the new time schedule. But at the case of 12 hours, slowing down. So there is a difference between these two cases. Okay, so there is a kind of separatrix, the critical jet lag between these jet lag. Okay, and actually it is important that this separatrix exists on the side of phase advancing jet lag between 0 to 12 hours. Actually between 8 to 12 hours. What's that? Sorry, I missed some kind of slide here. It's funny. It's funny. Yeah. What I want to show you is this one. So this is a kind of cartoon. Sorry. Anyway, maybe I should explain. So, okay. So this asymmetric response occurs because this jet lag separatrix is on the side of phase advancing jet lag. And if the jet lag is close to jet lag separatrix, this means that the phase advancing effect and the phase delaying effect of your clock almost balances. So the recovery becomes slow. That's the reason why if you experience phase advancing jet lag, your recovery is slow. Okay, the second, why do clock cells desynchronize when LD cycle is advanced by 8 hours? Because desynchronization naturally occurs for phase shift around the jet lag separatrix. Okay, so this is a cartoon describing this way. So this mouse describes the phase of LD cycle, and jet lag is a situation like this. The mouse suddenly moved to here, and these cats try to catch up. We catch up this mouse, and because our system is heterogeneous, some mouse try to speed up, and some mouse try to slow down to catch this mouse. So this is a desynchrony. And this behavior occurs because this jet lag is close to jet lag separatrix. So for these cats, it is not trivial whether they should speed up or slow down. So some will speed up and some will slow down. So this causes desynchrony. Okay, how can we avoid jet lag? So as I told you, we construct this mathematical model and reproduce the experimental behavior nicely. And actually the protocol is pretty simple. The idea is like this. If the approach of our clock system to the jet lag separatrix can be circumvented, then recovery will speed up. And this can be given by two-step jet lag. So what is this? This is 4-hour shift on the first day and then 4-hour shift on the second day. So suppose that if I travel from Japan to California, not directly going to California, but I first stop at Hawaii, enjoy one day, and then go to San Francisco. This is the protocol, two-step jet lag. And with this way, the strength of desynchrony decreases. So this is a case of, so blue line is a case of one-step jet lag, the desynchrony strongly occurs, but the two-step jet lag, this effect reduces, the desynchrony is reduced. And also this is a onset behavior, and the two-step jet lag, you can experience faster recovery to the new schedule. Okay, so this is experimental verification using mice, and this is for the two-step jet lag and the one-step jet lag, and we find that it's statistically significant effect. It has statistically significant, much faster than the case of one-step jet lag. I can skip this one. So how about human? So actually, recently I got a baby. Now he is 2 hours old now, right now. But at this time, 6 months old, I took him to Germany for 2 weeks and observed the sleep time of this guy for about 2 months. And this is time in Japan. This is Germany and Japan. Okay, so from Japan to Germany, so these black birds shows the time duration of his sleep. Okay, and this is 24 hours and this is days. And when I went to Germany, the sleep cycle smoothly shift to the new schedule. So he was a good guy. But when we got back from Germany to Japan, disaster occurs. Actually, this is very, very, very disaster. You can see large white region here. So this means that this guy doesn't sleep during night for 4 hours or 6 hours, almost for 2 weeks. So and also you can see the cluster of sleep time split into 3 bands, 2 or 3 bands. So we suspect that desynchrony actually occurs in this guy, and in this way the sleep time split into the small clusters. Also, this is another experiment, two-step jet lag. So this is last year, just before the COVID-19 the influence. So we went to Hawaii and California, and this protocol actually works perfectly. Okay, good. Actually, thanks to my wife. My wife took these data. Okay, summary of issue 3 and final summary. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Hiroshi, for the nice talk. I want to switch to Spanish. Si alguien tiene alguna pregunta, comentario, pues es el momento. Ya levantó la mano la doctora Elisa. De hecho, le daríamos la palabra. Adelante, Elisa, por favor, en lo que alguien más se anima.
Muchas gracias. En realidad fueron aplausos, no levanté la mano.
Perdón. Sorry. She said that it's just claps because a nice talk.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah. ¿Alguien que quiera preguntar, comentar? No los veo muy animados. Si no, yo me lanzo con mis preguntas. Ahí el doctor Ricardo Marcelín. Ok. Sí, Hiroshi, there is a question in the chat. I don't know if you can see
okay.
it.
Let me check the chat.
Yeah, please. Because it's a long question. Maybe you can talk, Ricardo. It'll be good. I mean, don't be afraid.
Okay. Would you say that the suprachiasmatic nucleus make up a fault-tolerant clock? What I mean is that cells die over the lifetime of an individual, but nevertheless, the individual doesn't even realize when these cells stop working or are replaced. Indeed, the individual only perceives the emergent pattern achieved among the working cells. Yeah, okay. So, as far as I understand, this question is about the robustness of the synchronization pattern of the systems. Okay, so whether some part of cells died, even in the case some cells are died, the synchronization pattern will still persist or not. And and in my opinion, this system is quite persistent, so fault tolerant, because as you can see, this is basically the same as the system of metronomes, as of which I show you. So this is a kind of synchronization between limit cycle oscillators. And where is it? Yeah. Where is it? Oh, yes. So suppose that if I take one of the metronome away, these three oscillators still survive, and if I introduce another metronome into the system with random phase, they will eventually synchronize. So in this way, the synchronization of the limit cycle oscillator is quite persistent. So in this way, sense, I think my answer should be yes to this question. Did I answer to your question?
So, Ricardo.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. ¿Alguien más? Someone else?
Yes, maybe I have a question.
Please,
this is, I think, a simple question about the Kuramoto model that you explained in the first part of your talk. You said that there was for the parameter K, there was the coupling of the noise. I think it was there was this special value between 0.4 and 0.8. I don't remember where something happens. Yeah, that special value of K. Can you maybe elaborate or explain it a little bit better? Because it's very interesting what happens here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let me show you the model again. So in this model, K is the strength of the coupling between oscillators. And if coupling is stronger than the effect of heterogeneity, synchronization occurs. And his question is what is actually happening? Okay, and basically what is happening is something here. The frequency of oscillators, actually in the case of infinite large system, does not change at all until the critical coupling strength K, that is about 0.8. And from here, the effect of coupling actually arises and the frequency changes gradually. And eventually they will have identical frequencies. And this kind of behavior can be understood from this dynamical equation. Suppose that phase are distributed fully over entire unit cycle. Then the effect of coupling cancels. So this term is zero, basically. Okay, so for small coupling strengths, the effect of coupling vanishes completely. But above the critical value, the phase distribution becomes kind of the localized, and the effect of coupling starts. And that is the onset of the synchronization. Did I answer to your question?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, okay.
Thank you.
A very interesting talk, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, ¿alguien más? Someone else? Nobody? Nadie? No? Bueno, I'm going to ask you two questions, Hiroshi. One is on the page 23. It's about that mystery function that you put it in terms of a PDE. Remember me more like a Liouville's equation or Fokker-Planck equation, isn't it?
Okay. So this is a equation of the equation of continuity.
Okay. But
okay, so this is the equation of
but the meaning of F is kind of a density of something, right?
Yes, it's a number density of oscillators. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that approach is interesting to me because we are now doing Bayesian statistics with dynamical systems, and we would like to predict, for example, in your experiment of the last experiment that you show, well, the previous, not the last, the experiment in which you synchronize the cells inside of the brain, that you can have a lot of trajectories of the population of all those trajectories. Can we model those, the effect of all those curves or paths using kind of ensemble theory, right? I think from the point of view of physics, I think it's good to think in terms of an ensemble. For example, using Fokker-Planck equation is an approach. It's probably the most simple. But in some sense, for the people that is doing Bayesian statistics, they forget about Fokker-Planck because they don't know nothing about the distribution of the whole trajectories. They assume maybe some a priori density of the states in order to find out what is the whole behavior of the stuff that you are measuring. So my question is that have you ever tried to replace, for example, this point of view that using ensemble theory, for example, try to look for the probability distribution of, for example, of the density numbers using kind of a Bayesian statistics or more or less statistics, inference statistics?
I see. Yeah, interesting question. The answer is yes and no, not Bayesian statistics, but yeah, I try to infer parameter values using kind of the most likelihood method. And in this case, we consider, but not this kind of continuum description. So maybe the answer is no. Interesting approach.
Yeah, probably in the next slide. Actually, I think you use the Fokker-Planck equation.
Exactly.
There. Yeah, and the 24. Yeah, exactly for Q. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a solution, or this is a maximization of Q infinity of the density. In some sense, it's a kind of is asymptotic solution for the PDE, right?
Exactly. This is kind of a bit complicated. So this is original dynamical equation, and now we have continuum limit. So using number density, we have the equation for continuity, and the solution to this equation can be found in this ansatz. Okay, and then we can we can reduce the system into just two variables. That is R. Actually, one variable, one complex variable. So this PDE is reduced to this ODE using this theory. And now in this ODE, we have Gauss noise here, P. And using this reduced dynamical equation, we can obtain the Fokker-Planck equation for the distribution of R. Yeah. So kind of going to switching back and forth between the ODE and PDE.
Right. Right.
Anyway, so we have this Fokker-Planck equation. Yes.
Yeah, because you wanted to describe the whole thing, the ensemble of the whole thing at the end, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
There is another question for our colleague Oscar. Oscar, you can ask him if you don't mind. It's written in the chat.
I'll do, no problem. Dr. Kori, very interesting talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was wondering if, for example, in a given experiment, you only collect a time series of phase difference among 2 or 3 oscillators. Is there any way you envision to, I mean, probably identify a Kuramoto synchronization model that is underlying? Is there any way, a graphical way or some approach just to get a hint of what's going on just from the phase difference observations?
Okay, so the question is if we can measure only so suppose that we have a population of oscillators, and if we can measure the phase differences between oscillators, the time series of the phase differences of oscillators,
right.
Can we infer
if this synchronization model is actually happening, or what the parameters are, or something like that?
Okay. Yeah. If, for example, the case of metronome, so actually this experiment, the coupling is too strong, but if the coupling is weak enough and the heterogeneity is weak enough, the system can be described by phase oscillators model in a good approximation. And in this way, in this case, we can infer parameter values that is feasible. And so we can infer, for example, the heterogeneity in the frequency or the coupling strength. I think that is feasible. Did I answer to your question?
Yes. So there's this. I like your idea of like inverting the system as you showed. So I was wondering if this sort of inversion is generally possible with regular observations of a coupled oscillator system.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so actually the answer is yes and no. So our chemical system is really well controlled, and we can consider very weak coupling and also very weak heterogeneity. That's why we can actually describe the system using phase oscillator models. So under this kind of ideal situation, the answer is yes. But for strong heterogeneity, strong noise, strong coupling strength, probably the fitting is not well done. So there should be the deviations in general.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. ¿Alguien más? Someone else? No more questions? I have a couple, but I don't know if. Well, I don't know. Well, maybe I can try if someone else wanted. The other question, Hiroshi, is about exactly that phase transition that you can observe in the Kuramoto's model. Maybe it's almost 20-something the page. There in 19. Exactly. what about to predict the phase transitions? Maybe there is a theory about it, but and sometimes time ago I asked you a weird question, but because I was working in a SIR model for example, not for COVID, but something similar, and I wanted to predict exactly when you kick off the system, the transition. Well, I don't know if we can say that it's a transition, but at least there is another dynamic. I mean, you perturb the system, and the system has started to make some kind of transitions before to get again the previous dynamics. The linear response theory works in this kind of oscillations or oscillators. I don't know, but this is a general and ignorant question.
Okay, so probably your question is if the system is either in a desynchronized or in desynchronized or synchronized state, and we consider kind of perturbation to the system, and can we predict whether the system is synchronized or desynchronized regime or something
exactly.
like that? Yeah. Okay. And yes, the one idea is to see the response. That is what you mentioned. And for example, we can observe the change of the order R, right? And the delicate situation arises if the system is infinitely large, then there's no problem. But the delicate situation is if the R is small. Right? Whether this should be called the synchronized or desynchronized situation. I think it's difficult to distinguish between this state and this state experimentally.
Yeah.
So my answer is I cannot give you a good answer right now.
Okay, not a problem. Something to explore maybe in the near future. Yeah, because many of these models for COVID are oscillators. I mean, they are different kind of oscillators, not these kind of oscillators. This approach I wanted because it's like a more basic oscillator than a SIR model, right? Maybe sometimes someone else can try to model the epidemics, maybe in some place, using these kind of oscillators, because after all, we have that waves of the people infected and then recover, etc. That's a kind of oscillators after all, but they wanted to predict when we face the outbreak. So that's a difficult question for sure. I mean, maybe in this kind of models we can, I guess we can say something about the phase transitions in terms of perturbation theory, but maybe it's not so easy to see.
Yeah, interesting. So interesting. But the big difference is the case of epidemics, the oscillation, you can say oscillation, but this oscillation is really strongly fluctuating oscillation. So the period is not well defined. So probably another approach is better. And some people try to look at this synchronization transition using Markov chain oscillator. That is maybe more similar to SIR model or the epidemic model. I will send you some the papers after this talk about the Markov chain oscillators, the synchronization in Markov chain oscillators.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Okay, ¿alguien más? No, nadie se anima. No one. There's a shame audience. But, okay. No, Fabián, ¿alguna pregunta? O Gabriel? The other colleagues, estudiantes, nadie? No? Okay, well.
Hi, Hector. I don't have a question.
Gabriel. Okay.
Yes, I would like to thank Professor Hiroshi for the nice talking. And I only have a question, maybe help you talk with the Professor Hiroshi. Professor Hiroshi, I see to put some about the data like angles, like norms. Do you know what to if there are any relationship with the circular data? Because in circular data, because circular data are defined by the a norm with the angle. Do you know if there is any relationship with the analysis of circular data and without any relation?
Yeah, okay, thank you for the question. Maybe because of sound quality, I do not really catch the questions, but can you, which slide are you mentioning? Are you talking about now?
I don't know if maybe it's in the place in which you show some circular oscillators, but well, I mean in the phase space in which you parameterize with an angle, but something about the data. I don't know if this is the model, Gabriel, that you are talking.
Sí.
I think it's phrase. Oh, Gabriel.
Yeah. Sí, sorry.
I think the slide is further down.
Ah, okay. Yeah, Gabriel. Andas.
Yes.
Sí,
sorry.
Es que no sabemos como en qué slide es donde mencionas lo de los datos, que tome en cuenta lo circular, ¿no? Me parece, o datos circulares.
Sí,
¿Cuál es? ¿De las últimas?
Creo que es en la primera parte. No me acuerdo del modelo. Creo que es el primer modelo.
Este es el primer modelo.
¿Sí?
Sí, está parametrizado con un ángulo, ¿no?
Exacto. Okay.
Yeah.
Bueno, en fin, revisaremos la presentación, Víctor.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, I don't know if someone else wanted to ask us questions. Jorge, ¿te animas?
No, really, I don't
Okay.
have any more questions. Maybe I can just say, Otsukare-sama desu.
Great. Gracias.
Okay. Sí, bueno, entonces, Fabián, pues no sé si quieras cerrar entonces la sesión. Digo, agradeciéndole primeramente al público, ¿no? A nuestros colegas y estudiantes.
Sí, thank you very much, Dr. Hiroshi Kori, for this interesting talk. Y gracias a todos por estar aquí hasta estas horas de la noche. Es algo que podemos hacer realmente, pues gracias a esta pandemia. Se oye raro, pero podemos reunirnos desde lugares muy, muy, muy lejanos, ¿no? Como ahorita aquí lo estamos viendo. Gracias a todos por asistir. En sesión 8, dentro de 2 semanas tenemos nuestra siguiente sesión. Los invitamos a primeramente estar pendientes en los correos y pues sí, sin más que decir, thank you and see you.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Hiroshi. Thank you for accepting to talk to us, and you are welcome to come to visit Mexico. Probably we survive the next year. It'll be more easily to travel abroad. So, but I would like to thank you in the name of all the colleagues of the group and the students that attend this kind of seminars. And thank you so much for the talk. And we keep in touch, please.
Thank you very much. I also enjoyed giving talk. This time I missed the Mexican food, but next time, yes.
That's true. Okay. Bueno, pues gracias a todos y pues hasta la siguiente. Ya anunció Fabián. De hecho, estén pendientes, ¿no? De cualquier anuncio. Hasta luego.
Buenas noches y gracias a todos.
Gracias.
Bye.
Gracias.
Gracias. Bye bye.
Right.